Hello, folks. Quick one today on self-defense. A few thoughts upon it. Um, it's a bit of a medley because it's just based on a few things that I heard last night and a few funny things I heard today also. So just a few thoughts on it that can hopefully help you in some way. Just to prefix it, I'm not some sort of guru. I'm not like Bruce Lee or something like that. If you can find information out there that can improve upon what I say, of course, go with it. You shouldn't put all your hope in any one individual. But likewise, I'm not shit also. Like I've been doing martial arts for nearly 30 years now. Black belt in karate, I graded in kickboxing, judo, competed at a international level in karate, kickboxing, a national level judo, collegiate level in boxing, a bit of wrestling, and then of course jiu-jitsu. Jiu-jitsu at the lower belt levels, I was European champion, and hopefully at the higher belts levels, I shall someday achieve on a international scale also, but that's a work in progress. So yeah, I have got a lot of experience. I'm a full-time professional martial artist, but even still, I'm not a guru, and that's an important point to make. A lot of people, when they're talking about self-defense, are like, "Oh, this is what we're doing. This is what such and such said," and they talk about the instructor, the person sharing that knowledge with them, as if they're some sort of guru. And unfortunately, that can lead you to believing just completely in what the person says. And if the person's telling you the right stuff, okay, fair enough, that's not so bad. But if the person's not telling you the right stuff, that's not going to end well. It's not going to end well. So specifically, some of the stuff that I've heard on that note, some of the stuff that I've heard recently. One guy was doing self-defense component. He's in a position. I won't go into detail to reveal any of these guys, but it's just two recent ones. They're a bit ridiculous, but they're both all too common as well. One was, now it's only one excerpt from the overall self-defense course that he's doing, but he's in a position in his job where he's going to, at some stage, possibly end up in a physical confrontation with someone. Hopefully not, of course, but possibly he will. That's why they're doing the self-defense course. Some of the self-defense course was good, of course. Some of it, just one thing that was covered was, now this guy, they work, like they're wearing like jackets. It's heavy enough material. It's not like, say, a jumpy, wool or cotton or something like that. They're wearing, it's similar to denim. Imagine you're wearing something, pretty much a denim jacket. Like, obviously it alters a little bit, but that's more or less the sort of material you'll be doing. And it was in close proximity. If you end up with the chance is to bite the assailant's nipple off, it's going to be pretty fucking hard, with that sort of material. Like, you're more likely, when he's moving and stuff, you're more likely going to lose a tooth biting into material like that. Trying to locate someone's nipple exactly in a heated situation is going to be difficult. And is someone, when you're that close, if it's that intense a scenario where you're trying to bite someone's nipple off, is the person going to stop by getting a few bite marks on their nipple? It's maybe it will work. Maybe you get lucky and work, but it's kind of like, if that's your self-defense, it's it could just end up with people getting seriously hurt. Like, if it's someone that really wants to hurt you and they're that depraved, like, some of those individuals might pay good money for someone to try bite their nipple. They might just get them going even more. I don't think it's an effective strategy of stopping someone trying to kill you. But anyway, that was one. So that's just an example of something like that. And the second one was the other night, and so I'll just go on that point first. That's just one example that, in my opinion, might not be the best technique to do. Okay. Again, like I said at the start, if there is people out there who know more about self-defense than me. So if you can find them and maybe they have some use for something like that, okay, fair enough. This is just my opinion. But also, I know probably more than 90% of the people out there as well at the same time. So I don't think that that's the ideal way to go. There's a number of techniques like that someone says to you, and of course in theory, like, oh yeah, sure, you're going to bite him, he's going to let go of you and all this. Of course in theory, you're like, oh, that would work. One, like the way we practice anything, you start off when you're learning to walk. You just start off baby steps, literally, work your way gradually up. How do you practice baby steps of biting someone's nipple off? You don't. So it's just in theory, and you don't get to practice it. Then if you ever end up in a scenario where you would want to do something like that, it's very difficult to pull it off because you've never worked towards pulling it off on somebody. So that can leave like application shortfall. So the technique that you want to do upon someone, it's going to be hard to do it upon them because you've never done it upon someone at, like 50, 60%. I hope not, because if you're doing that 10, 20% resistance on someone in training, you're just sucking their tits. And like, come on. But anyway, yeah, generally a skill, you start off, you get an idea of the skill, just someone teaches it, you see it, you think of it, whatever, you have the idea of the skill. Then you do it really, really light resistance. You just get the body mechanics, the physical movements behind being able to do so. Then you gradually build up the muscle memory so you don't have to think about how it is that you will pull off that move if you needed to. Just make it kind of reactionary, and then you can progress beyond that by doing it on a resistance opponent. You start off with very light resistance. Like in the gym, the first time in, generally speaking, you don't go in with 100 kilos, you might go in with just a technique with the bar. Then over time you gradually build it up. The same with most skills, most anything that you do. You start off the low end and you work your way up. And that's how it works. With techniques such as that, it's very difficult to do so because of their nature. And then also with that, because even if it was an effective technique, even if it did work, but you never got to bring it through those phases of development, it probably won't work for you when it matters. So that's the problem. That's one big problem there. And the second one I heard the other night, there was one or two that were actually, it was a bit abstract, and it might have worked, but then there was another one. Now this is just one, maybe there's 20 modules, maybe there's 20 components, and this was just one. But this was the one because they were talking about self-defense, so I went kind of, not to the far end, but it was one-on-one scenarios with an individual who's going to be in situations where they're possibly going to get attacked. Of course, again, hopefully they never get attacked, but some of their workmates have had their jaw broken in multiple places. Some have had like just a bunch of other stuff happen. So it can happen. Hopefully it never happens. They went through a bunch of information, a wide range of information. The one I asked about was, what to do if someone's choked? Did they show you anything if someone's trying to choke you, trying to strangle you? Because obviously, like if you get your jaw broken, that's really, really shit. If you get strangled to death, that's the end of it. So this one was like the defense for strangling. So the scenario they done was someone's on top of you strangling you. So they didn't say the exact position. Obviously we do jiu-jitsu, so the exact position might be, mount. But if it's someone, a mount is a very common one, a big brother position where like you see even kids doing it, where they get a mount, kneel on the person's arms. That is a shit position to be stuck on with someone who really wants to hurt you. Maybe it was that, maybe it was side control, maybe it was just someone knee on belly, they're just on top of you and they're trying to choke you. Windpipe, crush the life out of him. What's the defense? So this is a scenario where this individual, nearly all the people that this person's going to be dealing with is 50% heavier than them. Some of them are twice as heavy and some of them are 3 times as heavy. 3 times as heavy. Some of them are more. If you're on the ground in side control, knee on belly, mount type scenarios, or variations of them, something similar to that, someone has your windpipe and they have your windpipe, you're in a shit position. Really shit. The defense was to come in between the 2 hands and to brush them off. You're fucked. You try to do that, like maybe like in that scenario, like you're gonna be doing that, and you're gonna just, well, hopefully hope to God that someone will just defuse the situation before it gets too bad. But that, it's like in theory, of course. Someone's hands are near your neck. Just come in between the 2 hands and brush them off. Of course, in theory, I suppose, maybe that would work. Any one of us that does jiu-jitsu, you know how difficult it is to get out of there. It's extremely difficult. And when someone is, like in jiu-jitsu, you're not allowed to just try to crush someone's windpipe. But when you are, that's really, really hard to get off. And if you do manage to get it off, the other one comes behind it. And they shake that one off, and then that one comes behind it. Next thing, you've got the windpipe, and you've got the mouth covered as well, so they can't shout. And you're fucked. That's just another scenario of being dangerous. But as I said before, they've done 20 odd modules in one day. A lot of time when you're learning a skill, you almost take one step backwards to take 2 steps forward. For example, like maybe a lot of people watching this, you drive a car. If I showed you, not that I would be able to, but if I showed you a slightly better way of driving a car, just in theory, when you go and get into your car to drive that way, you won't immediately be better at driving your car because you've already driven, say in theory, for a number of years. So you've done all that driving, you have your way of driving. This is possibly an improvement upon that, but in order for you to absorb and assimilate that information, you're going to have to take a step back. You're going to be, you drive so automatically, you're changing gears, you turn the wheel, changing indicators, everything. If you got a slightly different way of driving or whatever, it's going to take a little bit of adjustment. You're going to be thinking through the process of how to do that. So it takes time to do that. Then you're going to be driving every day, for example, and it'll become second nature. And then that improvement in your understanding of how to do that task to drive a car will come through and will actually, in time, improve how you drive your car. But day zero of having learnt it, it might not necessarily improve how you drive your car. It might actually make it worse just for a short amount of time. Not always, but quite often it can. And the same can also be true of learning some skills, because you do stuff automatically, you learn how to do something new, and it makes you think through it a lot, reevaluate things. It's like a centipede walking 100 legs. If you think about how to do it, it just wouldn't be able to coordinate all those legs. Same with so many things we do. It's automated, but when we go to upgrade that automation, it can make it harder to do the task for a moment. So that's the point I'm trying to make. They done 8 hours of self-defense scenarios. In theory, perfectly good. In reality, I believe by doing that amount of stuff in every one of those scenarios, you're after getting for a period of time. Even if you're doing good technique now, you'll have a few ideas, but you might have got slightly worse at defending yourself in order for in time to get better. But the in time is to be repetition of that and practice of that. So what can actually happen is if you do a self-defense course, you can end up slightly worse at self-defense because you'll be thinking of what to do as opposed to just doing what comes natural. Like, we all have animalistic tendencies. In certain scenarios, we all will have just something to go to, usually fight or flight, hopefully you don't freeze. So two things. One, quite often some of the technique just won't work the way it should work. And secondly, sometimes by learning the technique but not bringing it through the stages of development so that you can actually use it, you might end up slightly worse at self-defense, which is no good. So yeah, I know it's a little bit disjointed, but that pretty much was my thinking upon it. Self-defense is a big thing. Usually people don't feel the need to learn self-defense until they end up in a scenario where they needed to know self-defense, and then it's a little bit too late. But the main stuff everyone can just bring with them that you can do automatically is, like, you all think of self-defense and you think of like a Jackie Chan film or something, like head kicking people left, right and center. Self-defense, it says it's straight in the tin, and this is in one-off scenarios. If it's a recurrent scenario, then you might, of course, that's a different situation. But one-off, you're walking to the shop, someone tries to assault you or whatever. Number one, avoidance or awareness. You see something that doesn't look right, that's when you start to act. You don't wait until you're in a situation. Driving down to the shop without your seatbelt on, that's putting on your seatbelt is self-defense. Taking care of your fitness is self-defense. All these things are taking care of you, making it less likely that you will get hurt in some way. So just that overall awareness and cop on and avoiding scenarios like yeah, just avoiding scenarios where you might end up needing to use self-defense. Secondly, thereafter, if you do end up in a self-defense scenario where you haven't managed to avoid it, second is another way of avoiding is just do a runner. I know it sounds stupid, like people are macho, it's like, oh, self-defense, I'm going to power bomb them or something. Self-defense is defend yourself. The easiest way to defend yourself is to not get into any sort of confrontation if possible. There is, of course, caveats to that, but generally speaking, 100-meter sprint. Generally speaking, we're lucky to be in a society where there is mechanisms there that are meant to protect people if they find themselves in a scenario where they would have had to use self-defense. So if someone tries to mug you, but you manage to do a 100-meter sprint up to the shop, and there's people there, they're probably not going to mug you anymore in the shop, and you have a chance to either use the phone in the shop, or if you still have your phone on you, to ring the police, and all going well, the police will come up and sort that out for you. So, 1, awareness. Be aware of the scenario, avoid. 2, you end up in a scenario, get the hell out of there as soon as possible, as safe as possible, and use the mechanisms within society to defend you. 3, you end up in a self-defense scenario. Try stick to bread and butter, simple stuff. The basic stuff that works really well, that we see time and time again in one-on-one confrontations: boxing, Muay Thai kickboxing, wrestling, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, MMA. And of course, there's a number of other things that, of course, have very effective parts to them. But they're some of the things that work really well in one-on-one confrontations, as proved in time across decades, centuries, even more millennia with wrestling and whatnot. You learn a basic, you put it into, like that thing that we were talking about at the start, you learn a basic thing that's been shown to work time and again over centuries. You practice it. Once you understand the concept of it, you practice the technique, get the coordination of your body. Then you do it more and more, so that you don't even have to think of the steps of doing the skill. It just comes naturally. Then you put it into practice on a slightly resistant opponent and gradually build it up. If you want to be able to use some of these skills, that's generally speaking, I believe, would be agreed upon by a lot of people of how to do that. So if you want to learn self-defense, I'd strongly recommend joining some sort of gym if you can. Hopefully you'll never have to use it, but try find a gym, reputable gym with martial arts that have been proven to work, and yeah, just stay there nice and steady. It'll benefit you physically, mentally, and if you do end up in a self-defense scenario, hopefully you'll be able to maximize as much of that as possible and get out of there. Another one is, a lot of confrontation can happen with maybe teens. They just have that bit more testosterone going, and a lot of it can just be about trying to prove, within society that, prove yourself within that. Thankfully, by doing some of those other martial arts, it can allow you to prove it against someone else in a skill or in a controlled environment. You can come down, do jiu-jitsu, get rid of all that extra energy that you have. You can go to the competition, you can compete in a safe manner. It's very rare that we see many injuries. And that's it. And you've no need to prove yourself elsewhere, because you know of your abilities and you also know of your limitations. You're not in a movie, you're not going to do a Keanu Reeves on it or whatever. It gives you a realistic appreciation of what conflict is in a safe environment, a reasonably safe environment, and done so gradually. So it's not like you're just coming in day one and you're fighting the pro team. You got a gradual progression through this skills and martial arts that should give you skills in martial arts. That's pretty much it, guys. So I know it's a little bit disjointed, but hopefully you got a bit from that. Like I was saying, if you have anyone out there, that obviously there's people out there more skilled in self-defense than me for sure. If you're interested in self-defense, try find them, but be wary of the guru type people, because there can be blind allegiance, and blind allegiance when you're in a knife attack scenario is just going to get you cut to ribbons. So anyway, all the best, guys. USA.